chapter 8, our main task is going to be describe a trip you took with at least one other person. We're going to work on that for the next 2 classes. So I want you to right away start thinking about a trip you took, maybe a meaningful trip, maybe a recent trip, but I want it to be authentic. I think the purpose of learning a language at a school like BMCC has its greatest benefits in exposing students to another part of the world, the culture, the language, all of the things that culture can encompass, but showing students how the world operates in parts outside of New York City, especially for an urban population like we have. A lot of students haven't traveled much outside of New York City, so for them to learn about another part of the world is very valuable. At BMCC, we have a great deal of students who come to us already bilingual, and this is an advantage for obvious purposes. They can already associate an object with 2 words. You know, they look at this and they don't just think hand, they also think mano. So that's an advantage that we see with, I'd say, almost 50% of our population. Usually in my Italian classes, that tends to be Hispanic, so Spanish speakers. Italian and Spanish obviously are sister languages, both deriving from Latin. So that gives Spanish speakers an advantage in vocabulary acquisition mostly. The student you asked about, Sarah Ragasa, through the semester emerged as someone who was really special because I learned that she was studying not just Italian with me, but also French at BMCC and also Spanish at BMCC. And as the semester went along, and she was really excelling at an exceptional level.
In middle school and high school, my favorite subject would always be English. I would excel in English, and throughout middle school and high school, we were required to pick a foreign language to study, and at my school, they had offered Spanish, French, and Latin. And I chose Spanish as it was the most similar to the language that my parents spoke at home, which is Tagalog. So I thought I would pick Spanish because it would be easiest for me at the time. And I went through 7th grade through my junior year in high school, 5 years of really learning Spanish intensively, to a point where all of a sudden I found myself being fluent. I didn't expect to become that proficient just from learning it in high school, but when I came to BMCC, I didn't want to start at the 101 level. I didn't want to start over. I just found that I had a real knack for language, especially the Romance languages, and as a natural progression, I thought, if I already knew Spanish, I might as well take more.
All right, let's look at, so we talked about question A. Guardate la cartina. Quali di questi posti hanno visitato Maria e Riccardo? I think Sarah had a combination of things in her favor. One was that she was raised bilingually in both countries. So that means she was schooled in the Philippines, I believe through elementary school till about age 9, and then she moved to New York. So she finished elementary school in an English-speaking curriculum. So she had a foundation for the 2 written systems. What was another, I think, seminal moment in her linguistic development was a gift that she got graduating high school. Her grandmother took her to Europe for a month-long bus trip. And so there's 17-year-old Sarah with her grandmother just going around seeing some of the European capitals.
After taking a semester of French, I saw that they offered Italian here as well, so I thought I would take that. I think Italian is a very musical language. Out of the languages I've studied, I find that I have the easiest time with the pronunciation of Italian, and I just love the Italian culture.
Sarah's at a point with her, with the 3 languages she has studied at BMCC, where she can really develop professional level proficiency in 1 or 2 or even all 3 of these languages. Another reason that I was so impressed by her is that she sought some advice from me regarding what were the best French language study abroad programs that she could take at BMCC, where we do offer a French study abroad program, but also CUNY-wide. So I believe she's in the process of applying for a semester or a year abroad in France.
I haven't had a language professor that taught with the same methods that Professor Means had taught us with. He has a different sort of style that concentrates more on application of the language as opposed to drilling the students with memorization of vocabulary and grammar. He emphasized vocabulary to enrich our speaking, but we didn't have lists and lists to note these words specifically and only these words. Professor Means definitely encouraged the students to converse with each other in Italian, and he also had these things called task performances that students would sort of interview each other and make up a little dialogue to record and say so that students can hear themselves speaking it, and through hearing themselves speak, they can pick out any errors that they wouldn't have done normally in writing.
Having had Sarah in class, it certainly gives me hope that there are other Sarahs out there. You know, for a language professor, of course, we followed this profession because we love languages. So to have a student like Sarah in our class, you realize there are students who love languages as much as a young Professor Means did.
I'm hoping to work either as a translator or as a tour guide, because I really love the travel industry, and I'm hoping that my knowledge of multiple languages can help me in that respect.